Hello, this is Pride. I'm Alevtina Magyarova, and we're on our way to a place which is 5 hours train ride from New York. It seems like a completely different America. Squirrels, the smell of pine forests, peace and silence. But we did not come to this place just to admire the beauty of the American countryside. We are meeting a very interesting person here. Stay with us to find out more. Today we will talk to an extraordinary person, Almaz Serkebaev, the opera, musical and concert music composer, pianist, and the member of the brightest musical dynasty. We met in Norwood, the part of the greater Boston area where Mr. Serkebaev lives for 20 years. Almaz Serkebaev was born on March the 31st, 1948 in Almaty. He's the son of Yermek Serkebaev, the famous Kazakh opera singer. Almaz Serkebaev is a Soviet Kazakh and American composer and pianist. He's an honored artist of Kazakhstan and laureate of the State Prize of Kazakhstan. Almaz Serkebaev is a piano class graduate of the Kulash Baysaitova Republican Music School. He also finished Gaziza Zhubanova's class at the Kazakh State Conservatory. Almaz Serkebaev was a member of the USSR Union of Composers since 1975 and a management board member of the Kazakh Union of Composers in the 80s. Aksa Kulan, My Brother, Mowgli, Rock Opera, Tomris Opera, Shilkima Kui for chamber orchestra, and Folio Verso Violin Sonata are the most remarkable musical compositions created by Almaz Serkebaev. He wrote music for Tlep, Ballet, and Astana musical. He is the composer of violin and piano concerts, instrumental fantasies, arrangements, and orchestral versions for famous songs including those of well-known Kazakh music band A-Studio. He also wrote music for 9 films produced in Kazakhstan, Russia, and the USA. Now he lives in Boston, Massachusetts. Good afternoon. Good day. Boston suburb is like an island of peace and quiet, and indeed, it is an environment which inspires the composer to create his music. Okay, I'll open now. The house where Almaz Serkebaev lives is located in a beautiful place called Windrose Gardens. That's where we met him. But creative people often make decisions which seem spontaneous and inexplicable. His decision to move to another country was totally unexpected. However, it predetermined his future. At that time, he just wanted to change his life. Well, you know, I wanted something. I did not know exactly what I wanted. I wanted some changes. Back then, we lived in an old house on Belinsky Street. I thought, here I am, living on this street, in this house, with a coal stove, and this can last for my entire life. And I came to an idea to move somewhere. And I came to Bogushevsky. He told me that I could submit an application as a foreigner with extraordinary abilities. Talent visa? O1, right? Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's an opportunity for talented artists, sportsmen, businessmen. We filled an application, and in 6 months, we were here. It was very quickly. Really quick. Visa, or a so-called talent visa, is granted to the people whose achievements and talents go beyond the ordinary. Scientists, musicians, artists, athletes, whose achievements are recognized can get this type of visa. However, at first Almaz Serkebaev faced the difficulties as millions of migrants do. His family had to deal with everyday issues. Yes, and then we found this place. When we came to America, I started to look for the apartment. We lived in a small town, Randolph. There were cheap apartments there. We rented an apartment in Randolph, and we lived there for... I never remember the years. We moved here in 1998. So this year, you are celebrating your anniversary. Yes, it's been 20 years since we moved here. We lived 10 years there and almost 10 years here. Everything was fine after we settled here. My dad visited us here. He said, don't even think about moving anywhere else. Wasn't he disappointed by the fact that his son is an immigrant in America? He always made jokes about it. He's an artist. It was like, when I think my son is an immigrant, with tears in his voice. No, he was fine. He liked it here. He came to visit me several times. The only issue is that we live too far away. It is hard to take such long flights. Almaz told us about his legendary father, Yermek Serkibayev, who was not happy with his son's idea to migrate to America, but later he changed his view. We could feel the warmth in Almaz's voice when he was talking about his father. It is not just because Yermek Serkibayev is his closest relative. He lived for the sake of art. His life belonged to the music. The people needed him, and it was the meaning of his life. When he retired, he suddenly felt some kind of needlessness. Now I understand it. Yermek Serkibayev is undoubtedly a #1 singer in Kazakhstan. He was adored by the people. He loved what he did. His outstanding achievements were an example for many opera singers and artists, and for ordinary people, because all Kazakhs have a natural disposition for music. Well, the Kazakhs always had the concept of Akin. Akin is not just a person who sings songs. For Akin, singing is a type of his activity, his way of life. These people always enjoyed a great respect. Akin did not have to worry about the financial part of his life. Akin was never poor because the people fully supported him financially. In other words, he was welcomed everywhere? Yes, people hosted him, gave him clothes and food, and a horse to ride. And any person was happy to host him? Yes. Isn't it a great tradition? Maybe someday it'll come back? Maybe. The basic things we learn in our childhood remain with us forever, but some lessons we get from the people have a special meaning for us. Almaz got this kind of lessons from his father. He taught me to drive a car. He was a very skilled driver. And he told me, you need to know one single rule. You have to drive in such a way that no one around needs to speed up or slow down. If no one changes gears because of you, you will be fine. Nothing will ever happen to you. And this rule works not only for driving, it perfectly works for the relations with the people around. So, it is such a philosophy of life. Yes. And does it work? It works great. Yes, it certainly works. Almaz Serkibayev respects himself and others. He holds this fundamental principle which comes from his home country background. He would like to visit his favorite city more often. He still has many ties with this city. Unfortunately, long flights make the visits hard. It's been a while. I was in Almaty, I think, about 8 years ago. I went to the opening night of my Astana musical. Astana musical is a story of two friends who came across each other after a long separation. When Almaz, or Alik, that's how we call him at home, was working on this musical, all the family was singing this song.
получается, основные работы ваши как композитора...
It seems that your main composer's works are related to Kazakhstan. You work here in America, of course, and you write music for the American movies. But Tomri's opera, your musicals are special for us. There is something in these works which make us thrill every time we hear your music. All this is for Kazakhstan. You left Kazakhstan, but your soul belongs there. You know, when I go to bed, I think about Almaty. And I see Almaty in my dreams. I never saw dreams about America.
Как ты, как там наша Алматы, цветет и пахнет, снятся мне ее цветы. Как там, как ты, в Алматы цветут цветы.
Almas chose a countryside life among pine trees. Apparently, it reflects the nature of a thoughtful and contemplative person. He does not like busy cities.
Я не люблю Нью-Йорк. Совсем не люблю.
I do not like New York at all. I can't stand the hustle and bustle of big cities. I hate the crowds of people walking along the streets. I didn't like Moscow because of this. But these cities have something in common.
Метро.
Yes, they just completely absorb a person. Subway. There, the subway is just a mess. Sorry, I didn't like the Moscow subway metro either. A huge crowd of people stand in one coach and swing in the same way. And here I am too, swinging with them and looking at my reflection in the window. I don't like to be part of the crowd. Almas's younger brother, Baigali, who was the guest of our program, lives in Moscow. Seems that the brothers have a lot in common, but still are very different.
Ну, не знаю, мы как-то... Ну, у нас разница большая.
Well, I don't know. We somehow... But we have a big age difference, 10 years. It is a lot, and I always treat him like a son. Patronizing him? Well, yes, I could even kick the crap out of him. Anyway, I used to punish him. Are there any other brothers and sisters who do not punish younger ones? Probably not, but Borichka, as we called him, he was always our fair-headed boy. I still remember his 60th birthday celebration. It is unthinkable that Borya turned 60. I remember I watched the movie the day when he turned 20. I was 15 back then. I think, yes, this is all. This is the end. A respectful age. No, not a respectful age, but life ends. You see, he's 60. I'm 70. Almas Erkibaev recently quit his job at Boston Ballet. He decided to retire. It was difficult at the beginning. I never worked in Almaty in Kazakhstan. I was always engaged in creative work. I had several attempts. I worked in Almaty Music School for one season, and in the Composers Union, I had a job position. But I always wanted to work with the recorders and music equipment. My whole life is about writing music. Almas Erkibaev has many projects with Marat Bisengaliyev, the outstanding Kazakh violinist. They have been working in tandem for many years.
Ну да, началось-то это давно, и опять-таки даты я никогда не помнил.
Yes, it started a long time ago, and again, I never remember the dates.
Сонату для скрипки соло.
I wrote violin sonata for him, which I called a folio version. It is a folio sheet.
Другая страница.
This is another page. I somehow connected it with my move to America.
Сюда в Америку.
It was the reflection in your music?
После этого я написал для него.
Yes, but after that, I wrote a violin and piano prelude.
И фортепиано, потом для скрипки и камерного оркестра.
Then I wrote music for violin and chamber orchestra.
Фантазию на название у меня никогда не работала. Это Марат придумал название Alma-Ata.
Marat gave it a name, Alma-Ata, and it suits well, really does. Marat came here and played it in Carnegie Hall.
В Карнеги Холл он играл эту вещь.
Сейчас, получается, тоже что-то делаете?
Now you're
несмотря на
still
то,
working.
что активной работы уже
You're not so busy. You do not work for Boston Ballet anymore, but still, the creative work is ongoing.
В том, что нельзя останавливаться.
You can't stop.
Как только я перестану работать, у меня мозги откажут. И просто
If I stop working, my brain will refuse to work as well.
Если не
A person simply dies if he stops to do something he did for his entire life.
стихи, язык какой-нибудь, там, какая-то творческая работа.
One should learn poems by heart, learn languages, do something creative. It is the most powerful exercise for your brain.
Упражнение для мозга.
The story of Almas Erkibaev about learning a foreign language literally shocked me.
С языком вообще было интересно.
My story about studying languages is very interesting.
Был у меня у нас как там в консерватории был
One
концерт
of my cues for chamber orchestra was performed in a concert.
оркестра. И ко мне после концерта подошел
A man
человек.
came up to me after the concert and asked me something in German. I said, sorry, I don't know this language.
Извините, я не знаю. Он спросил меня про Лео
He
Француз.
asked me, parlez-vous français? And I said, no, I don't know. Do you speak English? I said, no. No, I don't.
Как повернулся и
He
ушел.
got confused and left.
Мне стало не то что стыдно, я так обозлился на самого
I
себя.
was not ashamed, but I was so angry with myself.
Считаешь себя интеллигентным человеком?
I thought that I can consider myself an educated person.
Тебе предложили на выбор 3 языка,
I was asked in 3 world languages
и ты ни одного
and couldn't give an answer in any one of them. Since then, I started to learn languages.
С тех пор я стал учиться.
This situation made him think about moving to another country, although at that time Almas did not even think about living abroad.
Я использовал тогда кассетный магнитофон.
I used a tape recorder at that time that I had to repeat at the same speed as this person.
Повторять с той же скоростью, как человек говорит. Так я в конце концов уже
In the end, I did so many exercises that I could listen to any text, completely unfamiliar to me, and I could repeat it, word by word, with the same intonation.
сразу же. То есть почти синхронно. Я даже не знаю, что он скажет в последнюю минуту, в последнюю секунду, даже долю.
I didn't even know what he would say at last minute, at the last second, but I could repeat this thing on and on.
В протяжении, наверное, полугода.
And I did it for probably half a year, every day, for 4 hours. Maybe we can say that this is a new method of learning foreign languages invented by Almas Erkibaev. He can even get a patent for this method. Almas Erkibaev did a colossal work to learn a new language. Hard work and persistence helped him in everything he did. He sets the goal and does his best to achieve it.
Это очень интересная штука.
Well, this is a very interesting thing.
То есть вот это вот проговаривание.
At first, it was very difficult for me to work with the pronunciation and intonation.
И у меня, поскольку язык и вообще вся эта
To
артикуляция.
tell the truth, the whole articulation made my tongue bleeding. I'm not good at learning new languages.
Были в кровь.
This was really a challenging task, but then I succeeded in catching uncertain, strange, unknown words.
Мне наработались мозоли.
It sounds amazing.
Все нормально стало.
How much time did you spend on training a day? Probably 4 hours. 4 hours a day. No wonder we had good results. I've never thought about this.
На протяжении полугода.
Yes, for 6 months. Are you a stubborn person?
Смотря в чем.
Depends on the situation. If something got into my head, then I should do it.
То я уже тогда это пробиваю до конца.
He never forgot to consult with dictionaries. He learned a lot of new words every day. Of course, fluency in the language was very helpful when he moved to the US. However, although he quickly overcame the language barrier, it was challenging to get used to living in another country, even after 20 years of living in a new country. Well, the local mentality, especially among young people, is completely incomprehensible to me. Can't you still understand them? Yes, I do. They're very kind and sincere, and at the same time, they completely cannot understand some things. Can you give an example? Well, for example, if you get on the train or on the bus and the girl is standing over there, you can't quickly sit on the free seat, because the seat is not yours. You should offer it to the girl.
Это сиденье не твое, это ты должен предложить его этой девушке.
So after all, the girl will be offended if you invite her to take a seat? So I don't know. I cannot understand this. It is so weird. What about feminism? Feminism. They do not eat meat. Now they do not drink milk. Because they say that poor cow is hurt because of the milking process. While if you do not drink milk, then the cows can die. There are some things that I cannot understand due to different mentality and culture, but generally speaking, they are ordinary people, very kind and responsive. If you ask how to get to some place, they are ready to show the way and explain how to get there. They are very helpful.
Ты должен сделать так-то, так-то, повернуться там-то, там-то. Он будет еще идти за тобой и кричать, мол, не забудьте, вон там справа должно быть какой-нибудь красный ящик стоять. То есть он искренне совершенно это сделает. Но вот заходишь в дверь.
Or let's say when you enter a door, open the door, and the door closes behind you, you have to hold it.
Следующему, чтобы пол бы его не ударил.
But they like to sit on the road or on the floor at school. I worked in school and I didn't understand why they prefer to sit on the floor. It's not convenient.
Нельзя сидеть на дороге. Вот в коридоре, я в школе же работал. Они сидят вот так вот ноги, вытянули поперек коридора, и иди через них перешагивай.
I was really excited to meet Almas Serkibayev. I was worried what questions to ask, what we can do. As it turned out, he was also worried, what should we talk about? His brother Baigali supported him and sent messages from overseas. He told that I'm a smart person and I will find something to tell. And, of course, he was right. You were worried about the fact that you will have nothing to tell, but you told me so many interesting stories. I really liked the fact that you complained to Baigali that you do not know what to talk about. Well, yes. Actually, I certainly love to talk. It's really nice. His opera Tomris stands out among Almas Serkibayev's works. The author feels this is a special composition, although the fate of the opera was not simple.
Ну, вот, вы знаете, есть...
Well, you know, one work stands out from other works that I created. It is the opera Tomris. The opera is like my favorite child, which unfortunately was not produced as I imagined it.
Которое, к сожалению, не состоялось так, как я представлял себе его.
Почему же?
Why?
Исполнено было.
It was performed badly. The attitude towards this opera was not positive. When people went to the theater and they said, why do we need this avant-garde work?
Зачем нам нужен этот авангард? Там близко ничего от авангарда нет. Это было... Я иногда, когда писал...
There's nothing close to the avant-garde style. Sometimes when I wrote this opera, I thought why I wanted to create something like Tchaikovsky. The music was perfect.
То есть все мелодии, все как-то благозвучно. Но я не старался сделать какой-то
Well, I did not try to make some kind of avant-garde or not avant-garde or something like Tchaikovsky when emotions overwhelm me.
Я вдруг слышу Ленского. Ну, потому что...
I suddenly hear Lenski. There is no better way to express these emotions as Tchaikovsky did.
Лучшего способа нету. Я не знаю, может быть, и незаметно было для людей.
I don't know. Maybe it was not clear for people, but I always think I should create something unique. However, he has quite a few bright and joyful moments. Serkibayev talks about his work with such a warmth and with burning eyes, it is impossible to stay indifferent.
Очень много всяких таких веселых вещей происходило.
Of course, a lot of such funny things happened. Let's say the violin concert, which was performed by Marat Bisengaliyev.
И мы ее решили
And we decided to record it, and then the conductor was Vag Popyan.
Ваг Попян.
А не бывает у вас чувства, когда вы свою работу видите, вы спустя время...
And do you think that you had to do something else when you see your work after a while?
Бывает, конечно.
Of course, I do.
Но вот с этим вот нет.
But I really like this work. But maybe we could change the second part.
Это вот то, что я говорю, здесь сильно базарное.
This music truly sounds so special. It was such a brilliant and magical performance. I only regret that I had no opportunity to see a live performance. And the author admits that it is one of those times when he was satisfied with the performance.
То может ли творческий человек в принципе быть доволен?
How can a creative person in principle be satisfied? What do you feel when your ideas come to life?
Ведь это все такие тонкие материи.
Ну да. Ну, вот у меня жена, она...
Well, I have a wife.
Начинаю ворчать насчет того, что вот там-то меня...
When I began to grumble that something goes wrong,
Что ты ворчишь?
she says I should stop saying so.
Все, она уже не твое. Отдай это людям, они разберутся.
As she says, you wrote this piece of music and gave it to other people.
Кто это сказал насчет того, что
Now it doesn't belong to you.
идея не является нетривиальной, если противоположная ей
People will
верна.
figure out what to do about it. The thing is that I put my efforts in everything I do.
За плуг не оглядывайся. С другой
As a
стороны,
result, I am nervous about the final product. I cannot stay indifferent.
тоже верно.
Да.
To witness how the music is created, as if you get into the secret workshop of a wizard, it feels like the magic is created there, but everything's done according to strict rules and laws for the maestro.
Был такой момент, где-то в классе, наверное, то ли в 7-м, то ли в 8-м.
Once when I studied in school, in the 7th or in the 8th grade, I decided to quit music. I decided to quit music and I decided to enter the Moscow Aviation Institute.
Московский авиационный институт.
Тоже серьезный такой
It was an ambitious plan.
Я хотел строить самолет.
That is what I wanted, to build airplanes. So I came home and said, Mom, I quit music school. In my opinion, I was about 13 or 14.
Мне говорит, ну смотри, тебе осталось
And she told me, well, look, you have to wait 3 years.
3 года. Ну потерпи 3 года.
Be patient and continue your study. Then you can choose what to study further. After 3 years, you will receive a diploma. You will have a qualification and you can choose your career. After 3 years, I somehow finished the Baisitova Music School and entered the conservatory.
Закончил эту бассейновскую школу и дальше как по рельсам консерватория. Там я единственное, что я там на 2-м курсе сменил специальность.
During the second year of study, I changed my major and got into the class of Gazizi Akhmetovna Zhubanova and became a composer.
Хотя я очень любил всякие такие вот точные науки. У меня,
Well, she somehow protected me from changing my profession.
безусловно, 5 по алгебре. Так, 5-4.
I was good at mathematics, geometry, algebra, and physics.
Я очень любил точные науки, до сих пор их люблю.
Но у музыки и математики много ведь
Is it
общего.
true that music and mathematics have a lot in common?
Никогда не мог написать, скажем, по литературе сочинение.
To tell the truth, I could never write an essay on literature. It was quite an impossible task for me.
Историю я никогда не знал. Для меня запомнить все эти даты.
I never knew the history. To me, to remember all these dates, it's impossible.
Науки это такая... Ну, законы-то одинаковые, что для композиции, что для физики.
I don't remember all these figures. At the same time, I love music. I'm good at remembering musical compositions. The music is also created according to some formulas.
Пресловутое число Фибоначчи.
Now the maestro is working on a new project, and again he creates his music in collaboration with Marat Bisangaliyev. Maybe they do not always agree in opinions, but this creative duo is able to create something extraordinary. Well, while talking to Almaz Serkibayev, I regretted only one thing, that I had not had the opportunity to meet him before. After all, this amazing person who lives far from his homeland, he's still Kazakh and a patriot of his country. Nothing could change this fact. I said goodbye, but his music still sounds in my head, and I remember those funny lines from the musical. Hello, hello.